The Boys, one of the hottest new superhero shows out there. I just finished season 2, and after the final episode I thought to myself, why is this show so addicting to watch? I literally burned through season 1 within a couple days, and season 2 was just as mesmerizing.
That's the last one? Satisfying finale, that's it.
Then there has to be another one.
There's not.
I give him my job, we're losing our house.
They owe us.
Who wrote it?
There are multiple things that I think this show does amazingly and are also very unique, so I wanted to analyze them in this video. I've whittled it down to 3 reasons as to why The Boys is so addicting, and the first main one is the show's unique style and tone. This is a show that is very crude, graphic, and bizarre. This fundamental combination crafts a very unique DNA that infects every scene in the show. A part of the fun that is derived from the show is that it is not afraid of being too bizarre. It is constantly trying to shock its own audience with something they've never seen before, while also having smart writing to justify the bizarre elements. Like the Deep having self-reflecting dialogue with his gills.
You deserve to be loved, Kevin, but that starts with you.
But it doesn't stop there. Having an emotional dialogue scene inside a dead whale? They have it. The Deep saving and flirting with a dolphin? They have it. Homelander fantasizing about killing thousands of people? They have it. There are so many absurd and crazy moments that are perfectly accompanied by good writing, so it just feels natural for the show. Since they have this crazy tone that is set, every scene feels kind of unpredictable. Because in the back of your mind you think that, oh, Huey won't kill Translucent here, there's no way, Translucent is a superhero. Or, how are they going to get out of this dangerous scenario? Oh, let's just use a super baby with laser eyes as a weapon.
That was diabolical.
All of these scenes and solutions feel very creative, and watching all these creative moments fall together with its bizarre and funny tone makes for a very satisfying watch through. At no point does it feel unnatural that the show is having a heart-to-heart moment between 2 characters while next to an actual heart. It is just a part of the show's tone that is established early on primarily through the perspective of Billy Butcher. He gives us a lens as to how messed up and crude the superheroes actually are. This is a very unique perspective on the superhero genre. Also, this is mostly branching into my next point, which is the subversion of genre. We get a realistic viewpoint as to how superheroes would most likely act in real life. We peel back the curtain and the show exposes us to all their flaws. And this is another thing that makes all the superhero characters so compelling and interesting to watch. We have A-Train, who is a drug addict speedster, Homelander, who is a crazy superhero seeking validation, The Deep, who's just an overall scumbag, Starlight, who hates the corporate life of being a superhero and is actively trying to sabotage it, Maeve, an indestructible superhero who is so beat down by the corporate life of being one, and Black Noir being Black Noir. These are all characters with realistic and tangible flaws. They are all compelling characters because they have active weaknesses, in comparison to a lot of other superheroes who have very boring and simple character flaws. I think it is pretty objective that most of these flaws are more interesting than Superman being allergic to some alien rocks. So in general, most of the superhero characters in The Boys subvert the general foundation of superhero characters within its own genre. This is interesting because they come off as real people and they don't feel indestructible.
Maybe it's because the 7 might just be a squad of manky roid heads.
Also, one of the show's active goals for its main characters is killing and taking down the corrupt superheroes. So by establishing that it is accomplishable to exploit each and every superhero, it gives the protagonists a fighting chance against the antagonists. So in its core DNA, this is basically an underdog story of some guys trying to kill some supes. That pitch in a nutshell is pretty awesome, and they even deliver on that obstacle within the 3rd episode of season 1. With the death of Translucent, the characters are actually able to overcome the seemingly impossible task of taking down a superhero. Through the show's good writing, the viewers are constantly engaged and are addicted to see how the boys come up with taking down Vought and any superhero in their way. This primary obstacle that our protagonists have to overcome is very addicting because they are at a constant disadvantage. And this is where the show's crude creativity comes in. For example, in season 2, the Deep seemingly stops the boys and blocks their method of escape. But what bright idea does Butcher have? Just ram the boat into the whale and YOLO that shit and neutralize the blockade. Because the show's crazy, violent, and crude style, it opens up the possibility for practically anything to happen. And that is truly addicting to watch. Practically in every episode, we see something that is crazy and unique, and through the show's good writing, it always has a place in the narrative. So for the next reason as to why The Boys is so addicting to watch is that the production value of the show is really high. For TV shows, we are generally used to low-budget episodes where the production value is somewhat lackluster. Seeing shows with higher budgets is very refreshing, and they stand out in comparison to other shows. For The Boys though, there are two main reasons as to why that production value is so high. First, let's talk about the visual effects. Good visual effects are in very few shows and are typically used in blockbuster movies. This is generally because it is very expensive to pull off, and they are not required to tell most stories. However, for The Boys, the visual effects are an integral part of the show because they enhance and tell the stories of the superhero characters. By having seamless and high quality effects for these characters, we can get fully immersed in their story. The first episode alone is a perfect hook into the show and includes some of the best VFX within the whole season. Two examples in the first episode is the introduction of Maeve and the death of Robin. For the introduction of Maeve, the creators of the show are hooking you with some crazy visual spectacle to set a high quality precedent for the show. This shot alone would normally be found in blockbuster movies, but the fact that this is in a TV show, it blows your expectations away. You are now watching something that is very captivating for TV standards. For the death of Robin, similar to the first point, it has crazily good visual effects that look great, but it also offers something much more unique. Most blockbuster movies are PG-13 and we mostly get watered down by non-graphic visual effects, especially for superhero movies. This is what The Boys has to offer that is very unique in terms of visual effects. It perfectly satisfies a want for more adult-like content in the superhero genre, and it is able to create a more gritty and realistic tone. We actually get to experience an R-rated superhero story about corruption and power. The only other notable adult movies in the superhero genre are Logan and Deadpool. And from their success, it is clear that there is an underlying want for this type of content. Going back to the VFX, the show also utilizes its VFX very casually to give the world more authenticity. This raises the production value because the show isn't afraid of spending the VFX budget on moments that aren't tied to action. This is overall very good for world building because it normalizes any extraordinary aspects in the world and makes them seem very seamless. An example of this is in season 1 where Butcher and Huey get into a super club and they are all using their powers naturally. The VFX here isn't used for crazy visual spectacle, but instead to actualize the world that we are experiencing. The show at no point feels restricted by its VFX budget, and they can tell an authentic and compelling story because of that. For the next point about how the production value is so high are the actors. Firstly, they have Carl freaking Urban. This is a man who has been in Star Trek, the MCU, Dredd, Riddick, and The Lord of the Rings to name a few. This is a great actor that we are dealing with. He brings so much charisma and complex depth to an intricate character that seems very hard to play.
You could take the blue pill. Or was it the red pill? Anyway, take the other pill and quit being a cunt.
Which pill do you want me to take?
Just quit being a cunt, that's what I'm saying.
Whenever he is on screen, we are glued to his performance, and most of his lines and moments are so memorable that it turns into meme culture. Like, we literally have him in season 2 where he's just sipping tea, and that becomes one of the most iconic moments of the season. The casting all around is pretty much perfect, but I want to put my focus onto one more person, and that person is Anthony Starr. He seems to be one of the lesser known casting picks, but his performance as Homelander is honestly one of the best villain performances in the superhero genre. The reason why is that he is a very interesting character study. This is a man who grew up in a lab and because of that is very unhinged, and as a superhero with unlimited power, that is extremely terrifying. On top of it being such a great performance, the show's length allows his character to evolve exponentially in comparison to any other villain in the movie format. Currently for his first couple seasons, I think he is definitely among some of the greats like Thanos, Joker, and Loki. And he even has more seasons to expand his character. And for any story, one of the reasons why it's so addicting is that you need to have a great villain to drive the conflict. Also, as a side note, they basically have Gus Fring from Breaking Bad running the evil corporation, so what's not to like here? Especially since this is an R-rated show, it allows for the corruption and evil side of Homelander to have practically no limit. And with no limit to Homelander, that basically makes him even more menacing. We never know how far he will go, and that makes him truly terrifying. On both sides, you have very intriguing protagonists and antagonists, and because of the good writing, it basically allows for infinite possibilities for interesting storytelling. But yeah, this is why I think The Boys is so addicting to watch. Its bizarre, crude, and graphic style and tone makes it feel really unique, it subverts the superhero genre, and it has a very high production value. On top of these three reasons, I also think that the themes explored in the show are very captivating, like corruption, corporate greed, and one's belonging. It's just an overall fun show, and I hope it is able to retain its quality over the next seasons.